Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to House of the Nobel Quran channel. Many Muslims who tends to memorizing the Quran or reading the Quran, especially in the month of Ramadan, would love to read the Quran with Tajweed and may even want to read the Quran with Tajweed. However, this may seem difficult. Actually, it's quite easy if you master the two things you have just heard. When you want to read the Quran, then you have to learn Arabic pronunciation. It means not to pronounce kasra like A sounds or to pronounce fatha like O sounds. As in this Quranic verse,
الرحمن الرحيم.
the letter N is with kasra. So adding a dhamma to the letter N and saying
الرحمن الرحيم.
is not allowed. Or adding a fatha to the letter N and pronounce it,
الرحمن الرحيم.
it's also not allowed to stress a light letter or to make the stressed letter light. As in the following word, when you see this word in verse 2 of Surah Al-Hajj, you shall pronounce it.
ربما.
Although the letter B is not stressed, it's light. So, the correct pronunciation is
ربما.
Arabic reading means having proper diacritics while reading the Quran. Secondly, Tajweed. You must learn the rules of Tajweed, such as what? Such as the articulation points of the letters, the rules of Nun Sakin and Tanween, and the rules of Mim Sakin. Once you have learned these two things, then you will recite the Quran with Tajweed. I'll focus on three main series in the channel. The first series is Tajweed rules by Hafs recitation from Asim. Second, Arabic reading series. Third, recitation series. The Tajweed rules series by the Hafs recitation from Asim consists of three levels. The first level, the introductory level. In the introductory level, we will talk about two fundamental pillars, which are the articulation points of the letters and the characteristics of the letters. Why? Because you cannot pronounce any letter in the Quran correctly without mastering two fundamental pillars, which are the articulation points of the letters and the characteristics of the letters. It's not permissible for a Quran teacher. If a student reads Ja'a without mastering Jim letter, or he doesn't get his tongue out when articulating the letter in Alladhina and says Allazina, to directly start with him explaining Ahkam Nun Sakina and Tanween. Instead, he needs to start with him studying the articulation points and characteristics of letters. This what was mentioned by Imam Ibn al-Jazari in his Manzuma or poem. It's a must to know at first the articulation points and characteristics of letters so that they can articulate the most fluent language. This what was mentioned by Imam Ibn al-Jazari in his Manzuma or poem. It's a must to know at first the articulation points and characteristics of letters so that they can articulate the most fluent language. What does this mean? The Quran reader must learn the articulation points and the characteristics of letters before reading Quran, so that he or she to fluently and well articulate the letters with no mistakes. After learning the articulation points, we move to the characteristics of the letters. We will know that the characteristics of letters are divided into two parts: original characteristics, asli, and non-original characteristics, arida. In the introductory level, we will study the non-original characteristics of letters. Why to start with the non-original characteristics, unlike other books of Tajweed? Because there are some necessary characteristics a beginner must need to know first. And studying them at first is more necessary than studying the original characteristics. Like which of the non-original characteristics? Like tahrik, or what is called completing sounds, which are fath, kasr, or dam. how shall I pronounce them? How the mouth shape should be? This characteristics is more important than jahr, hams, shidda, bayniyya, and other original characteristics. The next non-original characteristics to study are tafkhim and tarqiq, followed by mad and qasr. This is what we will study in the introductory level. In the first level, we will know about sukun, and we will know what a second letter or consonant means, and we will study the second part of the characteristics, which are the original characteristics of letters, such as jahr, hams, shidda, bayniyya, رخاوة, استعلاء, استفال, إطباق, انفتاح, إصمات, صفير, قلقلة, and other original characteristics. So, why does original characteristics come after sukun? Because the original characteristics appear clearly when I pronounce the consonant. Then we will study shadda, and we will know what a geminated or doubled letter means. After that, we will know the ruling on the stressed nun and mim, the rules of nun sakina and tanween, the rules of mim sakina, the rules of seeking refuge and saying the basmala, then rules of lam sakina. That's what we will study in the first level. In the second level, we will talk about a lesson called letter-sound relationships.
The rules of stopping and starting.
Then the rules,
connected letters and disconnected letters.
this, a brief explanation of 3 levels. How will we explain the lessons? After we explain the articulation point of the letters, I'll focus on each lesson on 2 aspects. The first aspect will be theoretical aspect. In the second aspect will be practical aspect. In the theoretical aspect, I will explain one of the rules of Tajweed theoretically. And in the practical aspect, we will apply the rules of Tajweed practically. And how will be the practical training? I will appear on the screen to show you how a letter, word, or sentence is pronounced in practice. This was a general explanation of the lessons. There will be a detailed explanation in the following video. And so that the duration of this video won't be long, I will explain to you exactly what I want from you. After we explained one of the lessons, with the practical and theoretical exercises that I explained a few minutes ago, I will connect the previous lesson to the new lesson together. And I want to mention to you in the examples and exercise a rule that you haven't studied before. And the explanation will be limited to these 2 lessons, and so on with the other lessons. I don't understand. Could you explain more? I mean that after studying the articulation point of the letters and practicing them, then we will study completing the harakat. Then I will give you exercises on articulation point of the letters and completing the harakat. So, the explanation will be limited to these 2 lessons, and I won't mention to you any rule that you haven't studied before in training. Then, we will study these 2 lessons, tafkhim and tarqiq, and I will give you exercises on articulation point of the letters, completing the harakat, tafkhim and tarqiq. Also, I won't mention a rule that you haven't studied before. Then we will study al-mad and al-qasr. And I will give you exercises on articulation point of the letters, completing the harakat, tafkhim and the tarqiq, al-mad and al-qasr, and the explanation will be limited to these lessons. Then, for example, we will study ruling of the stressed nun and mim. After that, I will give you exercises on articulation point of the letters, completing the harakat, tafkhim, and ترقيق, المد and القصر, and the stressed noon and meme. And I won't give you any exercises on any rules that you haven't studied before, and so on to the end of 3 levels. I will explain the Tajweed lessons for you completely from A to Z. After each of 3 levels, I will send you a book explaining all the lessons of the level with an appendix containing exercises for each of the 3 levels. This was a general explanation of what we will study in the first series. After that, we will study some Tajweed rules and recitation. For example, the poem تحفة الأطفال, المقدمة الجزرية, and سلسبيل الشافي. This is what we will explain in Tajweed rules or matn and recitation. The second series is Arabic reading. This series is divided into 2 parts. Part 1. If you have a background in reading Arabic, before each of Tajweed lessons such as tahriq, mad, sukun, and shadda, there will be videos of some reading lessons that will help you read well without making any mistakes in tashkil. Part 2. If you don't have any background in reading Arabic, then I will explain the entire series from A to Z. And the first lesson we will start with is the harakat, then al-mad, then tanween, then sukun, then hamzat al-qata, and alif al-wasl, then lam al-qamariyya, then shadda, and lam al-shamsiyya. These lessons are the tools through which you can read any page in the Quran. The third series is recitation, and this series is available to anyone who wants to study a recitation or a recitation other than Hafs ibn Asim's recitation. In this series, we will study the 10 recitations or qira'at, each recitation or recitation separately. And the first recitation we will start with is recitation Imam Nafi' in the recitation of Qalun and Warsh. Then qira'at Imam Ibn Kathir in this recitation of Al-Bayzi and Qunbul. Then we will study qira'at Imam
أبو عمرو.
in the recitation of Al-Durri and Al-Susi. Then qira'at Imam Ibn Amir in the recitation of Hisham and Ibn Baqwan. Then qira'at Imam Asim in the recitation of Shu'ba and Hafs. After that, we will study qira'at Imam Hamza in the recitation of Khalaf and Khalid. Then qira'at Imam Al-Kisa'i in the recitation of Abu Harith and Al-Durri. Then qira'at Imam Abu Ja'far in the recitation of Ibn Wardan and Ibn Jammis. Then qira'at Imam Yaqub in the recitation of Ruwais and
روح.
then recitation of Imam Khalaf al-Ashir. In the recitation of Ishaq and Idris. This was to explain each recitation and recitation separately. After that, I will explain to you Matn al-Shatbiyya and al-Durra al-Mudi'ah. And we will know exactly what are the 10 minor recitation or qira'ats. Then, we will study Matn al-Tayyibah. After that, we will study the 10 major recitation. Then, the 4 abnormal recitation. This was an introductory video for the channel. Thanks for following us and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.